When it comes to Cartoon Network, there are plenty of characters who have a lot of skills. You've got superheroes, sword fighters, schemers, and some oddballs. But while all these characters are different from each other, we could still see a few of them working together for the sake of a common goal. So we just had to ask, which of these characters would fit the various roles of a skilled heist crew best? Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is which Cartoon Network characters would make the best heist crew. Alright, we only got one rule. No characters from acquired programming from studios like Hanna-Barbera or from countries like Canada. And no characters from DC. Because I'm sure we all know how easy a heist would be if you had someone like Batman or Cyborg. With that being said, let's get started. You can't have a heist crew without a leader. For heists to be successful, you're gonna need someone who can be the brains. To be the brains takes more than just intelligence. They also have to be strategic, along with being someone who's confident and charming enough to get others to follow their orders. For this category, we've got a nice selection of leaders. Nigel Uno, aka Number 1 from Codename Kids Next Door, Craig Williams from Craig of the Creek, Eddie from Ed, Edd and Eddy, and Blossom from the Powerpuff Girls. Being a K&D operative, which is essentially a junior spy secret agent, Number 1 already has a lot of experience dealing with danger as well as with creating plans. Although he hasn't led too many heist missions, he's led plenty of stealth missions, is pretty good at thinking on his feet, and has what it takes to get his team through dangerous fights and risky escapes. In terms of flaws, he can be controlling, which in turn causes him to struggle when it comes to letting someone else give input. He's also a workaholic, and a tired leader isn't good for any team. In comparison, Craig is more chill, being extremely level-headed despite being only 10 years old. He's a natural planner, and while his big ideas may run on kid logic, which can be fallible and sometimes lead to more problems, he's also good at improvising and adjusting plans on the go. He's a great people person, able to get most of the other kids in the creek on his side, and he's been shown to be very clever. He's also the only one of this selection with successful heist experience, as we saw in this latest season when he successfully tricked the owner of the baby casino. With Eddie, he's a schemer who takes pride in the title of scam artist. Able to put on a car salesman-esque persona, he's tricked all the kids in the cul-de-sac at least once. Eddie also has big ideas, putting his all into them and actually being successful at some points. However, scams are not quite the same thing as plans. And while Eddie can be crafty and likely has the ability to make a multi-part plan, his inexperience as well as his occasional short-sightedness make for some pretty big disadvantages. Finally, we have Blossom, the leader of the Powerpuff Girls. She has the most book smarts out of the three, and it's often Blossom who's seen coming up with the strategies that the girls use to fight their various villains and monsters. When someone is trying to trick them, Blossom is also observant and is usually the first to see through the charade, leading to her coming up with the counterplan. She can also, however, be bossy and a bit of a know-it-all. Similar to Number 1, it may be hard for her to accept any help or input from others when things go wrong. We also have to acknowledge that she's still the youngest out of the 4 choices, even if she's also the most powerful. Looking at all of our choices, we feel like Craig is our safest bet. It was admittedly a close call between him and Number 1, but we felt that Craig was overall more imaginative than Nigel, as well as a better people person. Next is the very important role of the safecracker. This crew member often has nimble fingers, a level head, and the ability to work under pressure. For this category, we only have 2 choices, Double D from Ed, Edd and Eddy, and the Grim Reaper from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Not too many Cartoon Network characters have experience with cracking safes, and in all honesty, neither does Grim. What Grim does have, however, are some pretty nimble fingers due to being a living skeleton. What puts him in this category is his magic, namely his scythe, which can pretty much do anything. This includes creating portals and zapping away locks. The Christmas special also revealed that Grim has a skeleton key that he can use to open things. A silly gag, yes, but still a useful tool. As for Double D, while he may be the most moral of the 3 Ed boys, he's also the most detail-focused. He cares about being precise and isn't one to rush or make sloppy mistakes, which are good traits to have for a safecracker. Through his ingenuity and inventing skills, we see him invent many things that in all honesty could only work in a cartoon world. Even so, we feel like Double D could easily invent something that would help him crack open a safe. However, as impressive and helpful as more inventive methods can be, they just can't beat literal magic. So we're gonna go with Grim on this one. Moving on, it's important to note we live in a high-tech world filled with security and surveillance systems that can stop any unprepared heist crew dead in their tracks. So this crew's gonna need a tech-savvy hacker. For this tech-focused category, our picks are Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory, Badgerclops from Mau Mau, Heroes of Pure Heart, and Panda from We Bare Bears. Dexter needs no introduction. The kid is a certified genius who can invent pretty much anything. As such, it's safe to say that he knows his way around a computer or two, and certainly has what it takes to be an excellent hacker. Really, the only flaw with Dexter as a crew member is his ego, which could prove to be a problem if he starts thinking he's better than everyone else. With Badgerclops, he's not only a tech whiz, but he also used to be part of a gang of thieves, which shows that he likely has heist experience. When it comes to his tech though, we have to admit that he's really more of an engineer or inventor than an outright hacker. However, given that Badgerclops has cybernetic enhancements, it could be argued that he at the very least still has the equipment needed to be a decent hacker. Finally, we have Panda, who is, in all honesty, the one who is the least qualified for this position. Sure, while his younger brother may be the engineer in the family, Panda is the one who's the most tech-savvy. However, this only applies to using smartphones effectively and navigating social media, not exactly the most useful for a heist. It was a close call between Badgerclops and Dexter, but we had to ultimately go with the latter. For one, we felt that Dexter's strengths far outweighed his potential weaknesses. Additionally, Badgerclops is known for being lazy and easily distracted by food, so he would be a total liability even with his cool cybernetics. Heists aren't always about aggression, however. Sometimes you need someone low-key to blend in with the crowds. That's why we'll need a Master of Disguise. The characters that qualify for this category are Amethyst from Steven Universe and Jake the Dog from Adventure Time and Courage from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Although nearly all gems have the ability to shapeshift, Amethyst is the one who does this the most. She can disguise herself as humans, animals, and even objects. However, a purple human isn't exactly normal. In addition, Amethyst can sometimes be distracted either by an outside source or her own emotions. Additionally, gems can only shapeshift for so long before it starts affecting them. Someone who doesn't have that limit, however, is Jake the Dog. Being part shape-shifting alien, Jake is able to stretch and morph his body in a variety of ways. He has put on disguises that have successfully fooled people, and with how stretchy he can be, you could argue that he could easily help out other members of the crew in a pinch, even while still doing his own job. Coincidentally, our final choice is also a dog, although he's far from ordinary. While it may be easy to freak out Courage, which is definitely his biggest flaw, he's still a dog of action who can be crafty. Beyond his own shapeshifting abilities, which are mostly just used for gags anyway, we've also seen Courage put on disguises to trick bad guys. However, he isn't the best communicator, and it's hard to say who can understand him and who can't. Although both Courage and Amethyst are valid choices, Jake seemed like the best pick. Not just because of his extraordinary abilities, but of his past. Just like Badgerclops, Jake used to be a criminal, which means he may have a trick or two up his sleeve. Whether they need to fight off guards or keep the crowds under control, every good heist crew needs extra muscle on their side. Someone who can show off the power or brawn when necessary. This is another category with plenty of options, but the ones we went with are Ed from Ed, Edd and Eddy, Schnitzel from Chowder, and Finn the Human from Adventure Time. Ed is certainly the strongest, normal human that we've seen on the channel. He's no superhero or magical being, yet he's still able to pull off some impressive feats of strength, like lifting trees, cars, or even entire houses. Unfortunately, his lack of brain power may make it hard for him to stay on task. He's also incredibly destructive, which could be more trouble than it's worth. Really, if you want a smarter version of Ed, your next alternative would be Schnitzel. As a rock monster, he's both super strong and super durable. He's stoic, focused, and just a little snarky, as well as easily annoyed. Still, he knows how to get the job done, and wouldn't need as much guidance as a person like Ed. At times, however, Schnitzel is really more of a lifter than a fighter. He's also not afraid to just bail if things get too crazy. Finally, we have Finn, who's probably the best combatant in this category. Being the greatest hero in the land of Ooh, Finn knows how to fight with both his sword and his fist. While he may have been a bit immature and too eager for violence at the start of his series, Finn has become a lot smarter, which has in turn made him a better fighter. But maybe he's too heroic for this heist. Ultimately, we decided to go with Schnitzel for this role, as he seems to have the best balance between raw strength and brains. His durability is also a huge point in his favor, and if he can handle the craziness of Mung Doll's kitchen, then certainly he can handle this heist. As much as we may love a good fight, when plans go wrong and your crew gets pushed into a corner, sometimes the only way out is to blast your way out. So we're gonna need a skilled gunman. Our picks for this member of the team include Samurai Jack, General Scar from Evil Con Carne, and KO from OKKO Let's Be Heroes. Even before his series jumped to Adult Swim, Jack was no stranger to using a variety of weapons. Although most of these were bladed weapons, Jack still knows how to use plenty of projectiles, including guns and arrows. His martial arts training could also be handy, as he's got a pretty good handle on knowing how to properly sneak around. Although not much of a fighter, General Scar is a military man through and through. Despite jumping on Evil Con Carne to Billy and Mandy, Scar still kept plenty of weapons at his disposal. Really, it's only fair that he knows how to effectively use them to blast away any enemies that may come his way. Finally, we have our most non-traditional gunman, KO. While he doesn't use any weapons, he does have some insanely powerful energy blast and projectile attacks that could still cause some damage. But much like characters such as Finn and even Jack, it's hard to say whether or not KO would actually be willing to risk hurting anyone. For these reasons, the best pick is General Scar. Sure, he may not be the strongest, and it's very easy for him to lose his temper, but you just can't say no to a guy who has practically an entire military arsenal in his garage. When all is said and done, and you finally got your hands on your stolen prize, it's time to make a clean escape. When it comes to this, you're gonna hope that you pick the right getaway driver. Someone who's not only fast behind the wheel, but who knows how to avoid obstacles. Looking at all the Cartoon Network characters who have driving experience, we decided to go with Steven Universe, Mordecai from Regular Show, and Frankie Foster from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. If you've seen the time skip series Steven Universe Future, then you should know how great of a driver Steven is. Outside of one crash, which was more caused by Steven's emotions getting the better of him, Steven has had a pretty flawless record. Even when he was only 14, he and Connie were still able to give Kevin a run for his money during their little race. Another excellent driver is Mordecai. From actual cars to golf carts, Mordecai is behind the wheel the most out of all the park workers in Regular Show. Furthermore, while his crash record may not be as flawless, he's able to handle stressful situations pretty well, and can do a great job at avoiding obstacles when he needs to. Finally, we have Frankie. Amongst her many chores at Foster's, she's also the main driver of the Foster's bus, which can be easy, especially when you've got some, at times, annoying imaginary friends making noise in the back. It isn't easy driving such a large and heavy vehicle, so we'll certainly give Frankie credit for that. Ultimately, Mordecai is the best option. Not only is he an expert in both conventional and unconventional vehicles, but we feel like he could easily handle any of the crazy twists that may come with the heist, allowing his crew to get away. We finally come to our final crew member, someone who's always a bit of a mystery due to getting recruited at the last minute. You never know what they bring to the table, but that's what makes them the wild card. For this crew member, the choices we have are Coco from Foster's Home, Ice Bear from We Bear Bears, and Skips from Regular Show. Starting with the wackiest choice, Coco is strange, even for an imaginary friend. There is, however, much more to her than meets the eye. She can be smart, crafty, and isn't afraid to think outside of the box. Her biggest asset, though, are her prize eggs, which could easily be used to help to get the crew out of a jam. Next is Ice Bear, who is, needless to say, a bear of many talents. While most of these talents, such as cooking, cleaning, and dancing, may not necessarily apply well to a heist, Ice Bear also has a ton of ingenuity that's gotten him and his bros out of trouble. We also can't forget to mention his engineering skills, as well as his skills with an axe. Really, who needs a handyman when you've got a handy bear? Finally, we have the one guy at the park who knows everything, Skips. Because he's immortal, there's almost nothing that Skips hasn't ever seen before. With all his knowledge and wisdom, it's easy for him to think on his feet and get himself and others out of danger. When he isn't able to think his way out, however, there's always the option of punching his way out, as this guy is pretty strong. Any of these three would be an excellent wildcard teammate. But if you ask us, we feel like Ice Bear is the one. Calm, collected, and always unexpected, Ice Bear seems like he can do anything and everything. And there you have it, our CN-approved heist team. Jury's still out on whether they can pull off a successful heist, but we feel the characters that we picked have a pretty good shot. But let us know in the comments section if you agree with our picks, and what you think their likelihood at success would be. Also, tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge more of our videos. But most importantly, stay wicked.